Hi there, I'm Stacy Itzel, National Executive Director in Maryland, and I am so excited to share with you today about how we're going to get momentum going in your business. Let's face it, no one loves being on the struggle bus with their business, right? It's not fun looking at an empty calendar. So what if this could be your last booking blitz ever, even if it's your very first one? Whether you are a new consultant or a seasoned consultant, think about how awesome it will feel to focus on building your party calendar these next few days through this blitz, and then let the normal pace and flow of your business be what generates your future business for you. Doesn't that sound exciting? I know you can do this, and it's all going to start with 8 parties booked for the next 2 weeks. Now that's just 4 parties a week. But first, imagine for 1 minute you're standing in an above ground pool. It's a 3 to 4 foot pool and the water is cool and refreshing. You've got some beach balls floating around in the pool, maybe a little pool noodle that you've been kind of floating on yourself or another kind of floaty. And you decide that you're tired of floating and you want to make a little whirlpool. You're going to have fun. So you start walking or swimming along the side of the pool going in the same direction. So you're walking around that outside perimeter of the pool, in the pool, but in the same direction. Now, when you start out, it's a little tough, right? You probably have to go around 10, 15, 30 times before the current actually starts to pick up. But the more you go around, the easier it gets. And the more the water actually starts to move with you. Pretty soon, the noodle, the beach balls, and the floaties are all moving right along with you in the current that you created for your whirlpool. It gets easier and easier. You're still swimming, you're still walking with the current, but it's not as much work. Here's the thing, you cannot stop and stand still, because as soon as you do, you stop that flow of water, it starts slapping up against you, and then the current slows down. So right now, your party show calendar is kind of like that pool, and we are about to make a whirlpool with this booking blitz. Maybe you don't have any bookings on your calendar, and maybe you have a handful, but they're kind of spread out. You cannot make a whirlpool standing still, and you can't make a whirlpool swimming in one direction for a minute or two and then stopping and then swimming again. So if you have one party next week, 2 parties 2 weeks after that, maybe 1 or 2 the following month, that's that starting and stopping or standing still. So the way we are going to make a whirlpool in your business is by, again, booking 4 parties a week for the next 2 weeks. It's going to take making a lot of contacts the next few days to get those parties booked. That's the blitz. But that's also the first few laps, the 10, 15, 30 laps around the pool to get it started. Now let's talk about numbers for a minute and really understand why 4 parties is the magic number that you should be doing a week. First of all, it's the best use of your time. What you need to do time-wise for 1 party a week with your host coaching and things like that really can be done in just a little bit more time each day for 4 parties. The other reason that 4 parties is kind of the magic number is because of what we call the F words. One of those 4 parties might flop on you, or the host might flake. Maybe he or she ghosts you, maybe he or she doesn't invite enough people, no matter how much you coach them. And sometimes we don't know why parties flop. There could be plenty of guests, but it's just not the right guest, right? Most of the time when that happens, that party doesn't generate future business for you. It can create a standstill in your whirlpool if you don't have other parties going at the same time to keep the current moving. So of those 4 parties, 1 flops or flakes, but the other 3 will fly. And by fly, I mean you're going to be generating both sales and future bookings and team members from those 3 parties. Because we know that for every 4 parties we do, someone will join your team. Every 4, add 1 more, right? Now that 1 more that we add, that's what I call a flip. Now most of the time, the person that flips is your host. So if party number 1 flops or flakes, you get no bookings from that. Parties 2, 3, and 4 all get 2 to 3 bookings per party because you are going to intentionally do your host challenge and do all of your booking asks and making all of your contacts through those parties to get those bookings. Now, when one of your hosts joins, the bookings will go to that host to help him or her launch their business. So if you think about it for a second, that's 2 parties, the one that flopped and the one that flips, with no future bookings for you. But when you have those other 2 parties, the other 2 of the 4 from which you've booked 2 to 3 parties, you've now got 4 to 6 bookings from these 2 parties for your calendar, and you've just replaced that week's worth of parties. So let's think back to that whirlpool for just a minute, right? In the scenario that I mentioned, you were making the whirlpool all by yourself. How much easier would it be if you had a friend doing it with you? Every 4, add 1 more. Imagine when you're consistently holding those 4 parties a week, you'll be adding people to your whirlpool pampered chef team. Okay, so now you understand why 4 parties a week is the way to go. Best use of your time. It ensures your success for that week's worth of work as also for your future business. But maybe you're thinking, oh my gosh, 8 parties in the next 2 weeks and I've only got 1, or maybe you have none, or maybe you're feeling a little overwhelmed. Let's break it down just a little bit more. What is your next available start date? Maybe it's Friday. Maybe it's next Monday, next Tuesday, next Friday, whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's focus in on that date only right now. If you don't have any parties booked for that date, then you're going to do everything you need to do in the next few days, making those contacts and reach outs, and you're not going to stop. You're not going to stop until you get 4 parties booked for that date. Now, if you already have 1, 2, 3 parties, great. How many more bookings do you need to book for that date to get to 4? You've got to focus on filling that gap. Now, what you'll find that as you get and stay laser focused on that one date, you only offer that one date when you get a yes. Some people that agree to hosting a party aren't going to be able to do it on that date. So then you offer the next available start date. And if they can't do that one, then you offer the next available start date until you find that date that works. But you've got to start with that first available start date and don't stop until you get those 4 parties booked. Then, once your next available start date is booked with 4 parties, you look forward a week at your next available start date. And what you will often find is that you've already got 1 or 2 bookings on that date from when you were focused on filling that first available start date, right? Because not everybody could do that date. So now you're going to focus on filling the gap from the 1, 2, 3 parties that you got from focusing on the first one until you get that second date booked with 4 days. That's your 8 parties. And guess what? When you're doing that, staying focused on week 1 and then focused on week 2, you're going to book some future dates as well. And that is the strong start to your Pampered Chef Party Whirlpool. And it's from these initial 8 parties that you will generate your future parties and team members.